a goose. She raised him from a baby and she called him Bruce. Around his neck she was walking with a noose, and everybody around town called her Mother Goose.
Mother Goose, Mother Goose, Mother Goose, let him loose. Mother Goose, Mother Goose, Mother Goose, let him loose.
All the children loved Mother Goose. She gave them some cookies and she served them some juice. And then the children would play with Bruce until he got tired and went to roost. And then one day when it got late, the children went home, left open the gate. Mother Goose came out and looked around. Poor little Bruce was nowhere to be found. For a very long time, Mother Goose was sad. And then one day, her heart was glad. To her surprise, when she opened the door, there was Bruce with his family of four.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Mother Goose on the Loose. I'm so glad to have all of you with me today. I've got rhymes and stories and lots of things to do with you. But first I want to show you this book. This book was a gift to me from my mother when I was even younger than you are. So that was a little while ago. How old do you think I am?
I don't want to be mean or anything, but 65.
Okay, 65. Anybody else? Yes. 73. All right. 63. Well, I'm not going to tell you, but you're all close. Okay, but really, I am 400 years old. How can I be 400 years old? Well, I'm not. But Mother Goose, the idea of Mother Goose is almost 400 years old. The name comes from a Frenchman named Charles Perrault, and he was born in 1697. And so that's a long time, right? And he came up with an idea for stories from somebody named La Mère Roi. And Mère, anybody know what Mère is in French? Anybody know French? Mère is mother in French, and Roi is goose. So he came up with the idea of Mother Goose about 400 years ago. There are other people who like to say that they invented it, and people just kept adding rhymes, but they were rhymes for children. And sometimes they have a lesson to them. And so people just kept adding rhymes. There was a woman about 200 years ago in the United States, and her name was actually Elizabeth Goose. And she called herself Mother Goose, because she was a mother and her name was Goose. So she had rhymes too. So, but that's where the idea of the stories of Mother Goose come from, and people keep adding to them. So, Mother Goose rhymes are about people, they're about animals, sometimes they're about nature. And today I want to talk a little bit about rhymes about animals. We're also going to read an Aesop's Fables. Do you know what Aesop's Fables are? You know, Aesop was a Greek slave, and he lived almost 3,000 years ago. And he wrote stories, never had people in his stories. They were always animals. And he taught lessons through the animals. We call them morals, but a lesson is probably a better word. So the first Mother Goose rhyme I want to read to you is actually a memory rhyme. And I'm going to have you all do this with me, and you at home do this with me too, because we keep adding to it. And you'll see, you'll understand as we go along. So, I had a cat, and the cat pleased me. I fed my cat by yonder tree. Cat goes fiddly-fee. How's the cat go?
Fiddly feet.
I had a hen, and the hen pleased me. Fed my hen by yonder tree. Hen goes chimney chuck. Chimney chuck. How's the hen go?
Chimney chuck.
Chimney chuck. Cat goes fiddly feet. Good. All right. Gets longer and longer. I had a duck, and the duck pleased me. I fed my duck by yonder tree. Duck goes. This was easy. Duck goes quack quack. How's the duck go?
Quack,
Quack. Of course. Duck goes quack quack. Hen goes chimney chuck. Chimney chuck. Cat goes fiddly feed. I had a goose, and the goose pleased me. What did I do? Fed my goose by yonder tree. Goose goes swishy, swashy. Can you do that? How's a goose? Swishy, swashy. That's hard to say. It's like a tongue twister. Duck goes
Quack.
quack quack. Hen goes chimney chuck, chimney chuck, and the cat goes
Fiddly feet.
I had a sheep, and the sheep pleased me. I fed my sheep by yonder tree. Sheep goes, you know this one. How's a sheep go? Ba ba. Goose goes swishy swashy. Duck goes quack quack. Hen goes
Chimney chuck.
chuck, and cat goes fiddly feet. Now there's 3 more, but I think there's 4 more. I think we've done it. There's a horse. How's the horse go? Neigh, neigh, right? You might not know this one. How's a pig go? Riffy, ruffy. Pigs go point, right? Yeah, it does sound like a dog. How's a cow go?
Moo.
Moo. Okay, very good. And the dog goes? Woof woof. Okay, good. So, now I want to read you some Aesop's Fables. And this is a very special book. Aesop's Fables are very old, but everybody keeps writing them in a new way and illustrating them. And the illustrations in this book are by an artist. Where's this picture? An artist named Jacob Lawrence. Who's Jacob Lawrence? He's a very famous artist. He had exhibitions in New York City and all over the country. He was born in 1917, and he died just at the turn of the century, died in 2000. And he illustrated these Aesop's Fables in a very special way. The funny thing, as I told you, the stories are all about animals. And what he did was, first he drew people, and then he turned the drawings of people into animals. So the first one I want to read you is very short. It's called The Lioness. And here you can see this picture? So see the lioness here? She's playing with her baby lion. Can you see that? And what other animals can you see here? Can you see what animals can you see? Mm-hmm. What's this? A monkey, right, swinging from the tree. Yeah. And what about that? See what that is? A wolf or a coyote, something like that. So here's a quick little Aesop's fable called The Lioness. All the beasts of the forests were boasting of who among them could produce the largest, the most number of babies. Some admitted to having only 2, while others boasted of having a dozen. Some animals have a dozen babies in a total. And to how many cubs do you give birth? The monkey asked the lioness. 1, she replied. 1? Yes, she said. But that one is a lion. So, what's the lesson? Tell me the lesson. Yes. Yes. Right?
That sometimes quality matters more than quantity.
Sometimes it's not just about the number of things, but how good those things are. You ever heard that the lion is called the king of beasts? So a lioness would be the queen, right? And her one offspring is the best, is a lion. So today's theme is animals, and we're in a very special place today, and we have some special animal stories. Tora has a story about what?
A polar bear.
Polar bear. Where do polar bears live? Who knows? to you.
So there was this man who visited the North Pole, and he went with another guy, and they were traveling around it, and they found this polar bear, and it was a huge polar bear, and it was so big it shocked me. Let's go take a look at this.
Wow, look at the size of this polar bear. This is Matthew Henson, the first black explorer.
That was quite a polar bear. That would be pretty scary, don't you think, if you came up against a polar bear? Anybody can tell me anything about polar bears? What do you know about polar bears? Anybody? Yes.
They live in the Arctic, and that they have a big coat of fur that can help them survive the harsh weather.
Yes, indeed, they do. Yes? What else?
Like normal bears, they're white and not brown or black.
We are today in the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum in Baltimore, Maryland. And there's an animal in this museum. Who's going to tell me about the animal?
So the biggest animal in here is the elephant that is on the first floor. Well, there's a big elephant and have a look at this.
That is a pretty big elephant. Who's ever seen an elephant? Seen an elephant for real? Where did you see the elephant?
Yesterday I went to a zoo.
Oh,
so
pretty big. Yeah. So there's somebody riding that elephant. Can you imagine? Anybody ever ridden on an elephant? I did once. Did you? Anybody? No? The person on the elephant is a man named Hannibal. And he was African, and he's riding on his elephant. Why is he riding on the elephant? Because he was a conqueror. He went around conquering countries. And in order to conquer countries in Europe, he had to cross the Alps. Anybody ever heard of the Alps? They're mountains in Switzerland. Very tall, very cold. Mountains tend to be tall and cold. How was he going to do this? Well, he got himself some elephants. Elephants don't live where it's cold, right? Where do elephants live? They live in Africa, they live in India, right? But Hannibal got these elephants to cross the Alps. And he got himself across the Alps. The elephants did their job. And so there's a statue in this wonderful museum of Hannibal sitting on one of his big elephants. Any more animals that somebody wants to talk about? Yes, dear.
There is a huge bowl written by Bill Pickett downstairs on the first floor. Have a look at this.
So, Bill Pickett was a rodeo star. Anybody been to a rodeo? Anybody? Yeah, you've been to a rodeo? So one of the things that they do is they rope bulls and they try to ride them. It's very, very, very dangerous. So he must have been a pretty brave guy to be wrestling with that bull. So that's the third animal that we're going to talk about today. I have one more fable that I want to read to you, and it's my favorite. It happens to be my favorite. And it's about the mice and the cat. Who's got a cat? Anybody have a cat at home? Yeah? What kind of cat?
Well, there's like a lot. So.
You have a lot? Okay.
We have outside cats and inside cats.
You have a cat?
Yes. I have four. One's named Jojo, and then at my dad's house, I have a black cat, which is the only female, and her name is Stella. And then I have another cat, and his name is Fats. And I have one more cat who is, and the color of I'm getting a cat.
You're getting a cat. Well, that's exciting. When are you getting a cat? It's a cat. Have you ever heard of Felix? You know why you're naming it Felix the cat?
Yeah.
Why?
From the movie Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, there you go. It was a very famous cat. Good. All right, so this is about the cat. You know, cats chase mice, right? So this is called belling the cat, putting a bell on a cat. The mice once called a meeting to decide on a plan to free themselves of their enemy, cat. At least they wished to find some way of knowing when she was coming, so they might have time to run away. Something had to be done, for they were in such fear of her claws that they hardly ever went out of their holes, night or day. Lots of plans were discussed, but none of them was good enough. And finally, a young mouse got up and said, I have an idea. It seems simple, but I know it's going to work. What we have to do is hang a bell on the cat's neck. And when we hear the bell ringing, we'll know the cat is coming. What do you think? Tell me a good idea. All the mice were surprised that they had not thought of such an idea before. But in the midst of the rejoicing over the great idea, an old and very smart mouse got up and said, I think the plan of the young mouse is very good. But let me ask you one question. Who will put the bell around the cat's neck? So do you think anybody volunteered to do that? No, indeed they didn't. So, what's the lesson of the story Belling the Cat?
That lots of things are more easier said than done.
You got it. Much easier said than done. Lots of good ideas, but sometimes you have to figure out the way to do it, and that's not an easy thing to do. Okay, we're going to go to a break now. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mother Goose on the Loose, and we have a very special guest today. Mama Yaya, who has come from a long way to tell us a story. She's a storyteller and a griot. She's a very special kind of storyteller. And our theme today is kind of animals, and she's going to tell us a story about an animal.
Geego the giraffe. Thank you so much, Mother Goose. Now, Geego the giraffe, he tried very hard to pull himself free. His back leg was caught all the way down to his big two toes in the twisty, tangly, free trunk. The more he pulled, the more he slipped, the more frightened he became. Finally, there was nothing else to do but let himself slip. He landed with a big splash in the middle of the Ichi Pichi River. His eyes were closed so tightly that they hurt. He was afraid to open them, for he was quite sure he must look ridiculous. He stood there slipping and sliding on the rough rocks of the riverbed. And when he heard the twittering from the trees overhead, he just knew he looked very silly indeed. He tried again to get up the banks of the Ichi Pichi River, and again he fell back down. Now the twitters became chatters, and the chatters became screeches as those awful monkeys scampered through the trees, mocking and jeering him. Surely, he thought, they have no hearts at all. The more he struggled, the more they howled. Look, it is clumsy Geego again. Silly long-necked thing, always getting stuck in one way or another. A large audience was beginning to gather on the banks of the Ichi Pichi River. Suddenly, Geego kicked his back legs up, but they sprang back like a jack-in-the-box and hit something in the water behind him. Ugh, growled Garita the crocodile. What do you think you are doing, you silly, clumsy thing? I'm not Stepping Stone, you know. I'm sorry, said Geego, watery tears building in his brown eyes. I didn't mean to hurt you. Hee-ho, called the monkeys. Giraffes are good for nothing but trouble. They have such silly long legs and a silly long neck. They are always stumbling over their two big toes. They can't even take a drink without looking silly. Murdoch the monkey hung far out over his branch, jeering the loudest. "Look at us!" he shouted with much pride. "We are very well made indeed. Our tails and arms are great for swimming. We glide through the trees so gracefully. Who ever heard of a monkey falling out of his tree?" With this there was a loud splash as Murdoch lost his balance and fell into the Eechy Peachy River. Geego did not even notice Murdoch at all. He was too busy thinking how it was hard for him to get a drink. He must spread his two front legs wide apart, then he must reach his long neck all the way down to the water, and there was just no way to do it gracefully. "It is true," sighed Geego wearily. "Yes," said Karita the crocodile, "and just consider how smartly made I am." She opened her mouth wide. "Do you have a large mouth full of teeth like mine? I can catch a fish with one big gulp," she said, opening her mouth even wider and eyeing Geego's long, slender legs wickedly. Geego made one giant leap up the banks of the Eechy Peachy River quickly. Luckily, he made it this time as they all roared with laughter. He could no longer hold them back. Hot tears rolled down his cheeks. They rolled all the way down his long neck, then they rolled all the way down his long legs and landed on his two big toes. Try as he might, he could not hold them back. And of course, since they had such a long way to go, everyone could see. "Crybaby," they started to call. "Silly, clumsy crybaby." Geego could not take it no more. "I think," he gulped, "I think you are all very mean," and he ran away as fast as he could. He ran so fast and the tears rolled so profusely that he could hardly see where he was going. Just then he noticed that there was much commotion going on up ahead. He stopped in his tracks as dozens of zebras and elephants and every kind of creature imaginable came thundering towards him. "What on earth is going on?" he called out to the rushing crowd. "Is it a fire?" "Hee-haw," called a laughing hyena. No, it is the good Lord. He is coming for a visit. We are all rushing home to straighten things up a bit," she said as she went scurrying on her way. "The good Lord," said Geego out loud. "Well, it's about time. I'm going to find out right now why on earth he made a silly, useless creature as me." He marched forward determined. "Where is he?" called Geego to the water buffalo as he came thundering past. "Where is the good Lord?" "Over there in the cacao tree," the water buffalo answered. "But you had better not bother him right now. I think he's resting or something. Go home and straighten up your house. He will see you when he is ready." "No," thought Geego, "not this time. I'm not going to wait any longer." He marched forward bravely to the cacao tree. "What are you doing in the tree, good Lord? I want to talk to you. Please come down," called Geego nervously. There was a rustling in the cacao tree. Then the good Lord poked his head out. He looked all around and said in a large, booming voice, "And who is this that's calling me at such a time as this?" "It is I, Geego the giraffe," said Geego with his last bit of valor left. "Oh, yes," said the good Lord, scratching his chin. "Geego the giraffe? Why, of course." You see, he made the cake tree many years before, so the giraffes could get a bite to eat more readily. So he was not surprised to see Geego at all. "Well, you see, Geego," he said more gently, "it has been a long time since I have visited Africa. The truth is, I jumped off cloud 9 too soon. Now my foot seems to be caught in this twisted, tangly treetop." "I know the feeling," Geego said sighingly. "Can I help you?" "I can almost reach the top of this tree. If I stretch my neck very tall, and if you reach out as far as you can take hold of my two little horns." "The very thing," said the good Lord. So he reached out of the cacao tree, which was one of the tallest in Africa. And when Geego stood on his tippy toes, the good Lord could grab hold of his two little horns. Geego pulled with all his might. The good Lord popped out and landed on Geego's back. "Hey, wow," said the good Lord, "I can see everything from up here. You are so very tall, and I can hang on nicely to your long neck. Geego, how would you like to take me on my tour of Africa. Oh, would I ever, said Geego, and he glowed with pride from the top of his 2 little horns to the bottom of his 2 big toes. Well, said Geego as the good Lord hugged his neck affectionately, where shall we go first? Oh, I don't know, said the good Lord with a gleam in his eye. Why don't we drop in on the banks of the Ichi Peachy River and say hello to the small little monkeys? And he gave Geego's neck another loving squeeze.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes.
I know I did. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll think about Geego for a long time.
Yes. It's nice to be different.
Anybody want to talk about the story? What do you think of the story? Let's think about this for a while. Is there a lesson to the story? What do you think? Anybody? Yes, dear.
It's always okay to be different.
Has that ever happened to you? Did you ever feel you were different?
Yes, because everybody's different.
Everybody's unique, right? Everybody's special, right? Anybody else? Anybody else have a lesson from the story? Or a time when you thought you were different and it turned out to be really special? Yes, dear.
That it's okay to be yourself.
Yes, it is okay to be yourself. Did you ever have a time when you thought maybe you weren't happy with yourself and you wanted to be somebody else? Did that ever happen? Yeah? Did it happen to you? What happened? Can you tell me?
I remember before the one day there was this person who was making fun of me and my friend.
Why?
I don't know, it's just like she was bringing up the school.
What happened?
And then, like, I felt like I was somebody else because she only bullied my friend, and then I tried to step in and help, and she bullied me.
Did she ever go away? Or what did you do? What did you and your friend do?
He basically just walked away.
Smart thing to do. Did someone else have an experience? Yes.
So, I was this one time where I wanted something that my friend had, but I couldn't get it,
Do you know what it
so I
was?
wished I was her.
Do you remember what it was? No. Wasn't important after all, was it? But you wished you were your friend?
Yes, like her.
And did you do something about it, or you just made the wish?
I just forgot about it. Then I said something I wanted more.
But, so did you learn something from that, do you think? Did you learn anything from that experience?
Something that you want, and something better can be from what you want.
Sometimes when we don't get what we want, we get something better, right? We don't realize it at the time. Anybody else have an experience about feeling different or wanting to be somebody that you weren't? Anybody? So let's thank Mama Yaya for being our guest today.
Thank you. Everybody has a purpose.
Yes, you bet. Don't go away at home. We'll be right back.
Yay!
And then the children would play with Goose until he got tired and went to roost. And then one day when it got late, the children went home